Because of the obvious threat to untold numbers of citizens, and because of the crisis which is even now developing, this radio station will remain on the air day and night. This station and hundreds of other radio and TV stations throughout this part of the country are pooling their resources through an emergency network hookup to keep you informed of all developments. At this hour, we repeat, these are the facts as we know them. There is an epidemic of mass murder being committed by a virtual army of unidentified assassins. The murders are taking place in villages, cities, rural homes, and suburbs with no apparent pattern or reason for the slayings. It seems to be a sudden, general explosion of mass homicide. We have some descriptions of the assassins. Eyewitnesses say they are ordinary-looking people. Some say they appear to be in a kind of trance. Others describe them as being So, at this point, there is no really authentic way for us to say who or what to look for and guard yourself against. Misshapen monsters. Reaction of law enforcement officials is one of complete bewilderment at this hour. So far, we have been unable to determine that any kind of organized investigation is yet underway. Police, sheriff's deputies, and emergency ambulances are literally deluged with calls for help, and the scene can best be described as mayhem. Mayors of Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Miami, along with the governors of several eastern and midwestern states, have indicated the National Guard may be mobilized at any moment, but that has not happened as yet. The only advice our reporters have been able to get from official sources is for private citizens to stay in their homes behind locked doors. Do not venture outside for any reason until the nature of this crisis has been determined and until we can advise what course of action to take. Keep listening to radio and TV for any special instructions as this crisis develops further. Thousands of office and factory workers are being urged to stay at their places of employment, not to make any attempt to get to their homes. However, in spite of this urging and warning, streets and highways are packed with frantic people trying to reach their families or apparently to flee just anywhere. We repeat, the safest course of action at this time is simply to stay where you just received word that the president has called a meeting of his cabinet to deal with the sudden epidemic of murder which has seized the eastern third of this nation. The meeting is scheduled to convene within the hour. Members of the presidential cabinet will be joined by officials of the FBI and the Joint Chiefs behind closed doors. The White House spokesman, in announcing this conference, says there will be an official announcement as soon as possible following that meeting. This is the latest dispatch just received in our newsroom. Consistent reports from witnesses to the effect that people who acted as though they were in a kind of trance were killing and eating their victims prompted authorities to examine the bodies of some of the victims. Medical authorities in Cumberland have concluded that in all cases, the killers are eating the flesh of the people they murdered. Repeating this latest bulletin just received moments ago from Cumberland, Maryland, civil defense authorities have told newsmen that murder victims show evidence of having been partially devoured by their murderers. Medical examination of victims' bodies shows conclusively that the killers are eating the flesh of the people they kill.
Mass hysteria. What do they think? We're imagining all this? Shut up!
In all parts of the country. The wave of murder which is sweeping the eastern third of the nation is being committed by creatures who feast upon the flesh of their victims. First eyewitness accounts of this grisly development came from people who were understandably frightened and almost incoherent. Officials and newsmen at first discounted those eyewitness descriptions as being beyond belief. However, the reports persisted. The medical examinations of some of the victims bore out the fact that they had been partially devoured. I think we have some late word just arriving, and I'll interrupt to bring this to you. This is the latest disclosure in a report from National Civil Defense Headquarters in Washington. It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder. A widespread investigation of reports from funeral homes, morgues, and hospitals has concluded that the unburied dead are coming back to life and seeking human victims. It's hard for us here to believe what we're reporting to you, but it does seem to be a fact. When this emergency first began, radio and television was advising people to stay inside, behind locked doors for safety. Well, that situation has now changed, and we're able to report a definite course of action for you. Civil defense machinery has been organized to provide rescue stations with food, shelter, medical treatment, and protection by armed National Guardsmen. Stay tuned to the broadcasting stations in your local area for this list of rescue stations. This list will be repeated throughout our news coverage. Look for the name of the rescue station nearest you and make your way to that location as soon as possible.
So we have that truck. If we can get some gas, we can get out of here.
There's a pump out by the shed.
I know, that's why I pulled in here, but it's locked.
Called this afternoon by the President. Since convening this conference of the Presidential Cabinet, the FBI, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the CIA has not produced any public information. Why are space experts being consulted about an Earthbound emergency? So far, all the betting on the answer to that question centers on the recent Explorer satellite shot to Venus. That satellite, you'll recall, started back to Earth, but never got here. That's the space vehicle which orbited Venus and then was purposely destroyed by NASA when scientists discovered it was carrying a mysterious high-level radiation with it. Could that radiation be somehow responsible for the wholesale murders we're now suffering? Newsman Don Quinn in Washington has posed those questions.
It's obvious our best move is to try to get out of here.
How are you going to get over to that pump? Look!
You're coming from a meeting regarding the explosion of the Venus probe, is that right?
Yes, that was the subject of the meeting.
You feel there is a connection between this and the phenomenon?
There's a definite connection.
In other words, you feel that the radiation on the Venus probe is enough to cause these mutations?
There was a very high degree of radiation.
Well, just a minute. I'm not sure that that's certain at all. I don't think that has been
only logical
irrefutably
explanation that
proved.
we have at this time.
In other words, it is the military's viewpoint that the radiation is not the cause of the mutation.
I can't speak for the entire military at this time, gentlemen.
This seems to
I
be...
must disagree with these gentlemen presently until this is irrefutably proved.
everything is being done that can be done.
We'll have to hurry for our next meeting.
Professor, you feel that there is a definite connection between them?
Definite connection as far as Dr. Keller and myself.
Doctor, please. I thought we decided that is not proved yet.
But,
Was the satellite, when the satellite was exploded?
An unusual amount of radiation, enough to cause mutation under certain circumstances.
Could have happened.
have a bearing on it.
It does seem to have a bearing.
Will there be a reply for this further?
Later?
Yes.
There will be a reply.
Yes.
Later this afternoon. There will be a report this afternoon.
Perhaps there will
Yes,
be a report,
yes.
a more
Later.
full report. Will you close the window?
We are doing everything possible to solve the problem.
In the cold room at the university, we had a cadaver from which all 4 limbs had been amputated. Sometime early this morning, it opened its eyes and began to move its trunk. It was dead, but it opened its eyes and tried to move. The body should be disposed of at once, preferably by cremation.
Well, how long after death, then, does the body become reactivated?
It's only a matter of minutes.
Minutes? Well, that doesn't give people time to make any arrangements.
Oh, you're right. It doesn't give them time to make funeral arrangements. The bodies must be carried to the street and burned. They must be burned immediately. Soak them with gasoline and burn them. The bereaved will have to forego the dubious comforts that a funeral service will give. They're just dead flesh and dangerous.
I see. Being monitored closely by scientists at all the radiation detection stations. At this hour, they report the level of the mysterious radiation continues to increase steadily. So long as this situation remains, government spokesmen warn that dead bodies will continue to be transformed into the flesh-eating ghouls. All persons who die during this crisis, from whatever cause, will come back to life to seek human victims unless their bodies are first disposed of by cremation. Our news cameras have just returned from covering such a search and destroy operation against the ghouls, this one conducted by Sheriff Conan McClellan in Butler County, Pennsylvania. So now let's go to that film report. All law enforcement agencies and the military have been organized to search out and destroy the marauding ghouls. The Survival Command Center at the Pentagon has disclosed that a ghoul can be killed by a shot in the head or a heavy blow to the skull. Officials are quoted as explaining that since the brain of a ghoul has been activated by the radiation, the plan is kill the brain and you kill the ghoul.
Want anything from the supply wagon, Cuz?
No, we're all right. Hey, Cass, put that thing all the way in the fire. We don't want it getting up again. All right, I got you.
Chief McClellan, how's everything going?
Oh, things aren't going too bad. Men are taking it pretty good. You want to get on the other side of the road over there?
Chief, do you think we'll be able to defeat these things?
Well, we killed 19 of them today right in this area. Those last 3 we caught trying to claw their way into an abandoned shed. They must have thought somebody was in there. There wasn't, though. We heard them making all kind of noise. We came over and beat them off, blasted them down.
Chief, as soon as you're finished, can I see you here?
Yeah, okay.
Chief, if I were surrounded by 6 or 8 of these things, would I stand a chance with them?
Well, there's no problem. If you had a gun, shoot them in the head. That's a sure way to kill them. If you don't, get yourself a club or a torch. Beat them or burn them. They go up pretty easy.
Well, Chief McClellan, how long do you think it will take you until you get the situation under control?
Well, that's pretty hard to say. We don't know how many of them there are. We know when we find them, we can kill them.
Are they slow-moving, Chief?
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Well, in time, would you say you ought to be able to wrap this up in 24 hours?
Well, we don't really know. We know we'll be into it most of the night, probably into the early morning. We're working our way toward Willard, and we'll team up with the National Guard over there, and then we'll be able to give a more definite view.
Thank you very much, Chief McClellan. This is Bill Cardill, WIC TV 11 News.
Thank you, Bill, for that report. Official spokesman declined to speculate just how long it may take to kill off all the flesh eaters, so long as the heavy rain...
You believe the dead are returning to life? I'm not so sure. You believe the dead are returning to life and attacking the living?
I'm not so sure what to believe, Doctor. All we get is what you people tell us. And it's hard enough to believe
It's fact. It's fact.
It's hard enough to believe without you coming in here and...
You're not running a talk show here, Mr. Berman. You can forget pitching an audience the moral bullshit they want to hear.
You're talking about abandoning every human code...
Every dead body that is not exterminated becomes one of them. It gets up and kills. The people it kills get up and kill. The body must be exterminated, either by destroying the brain or severing the brain from the rest of the body. This situation must be controlled before it's too late. They are multiplying too rapidly.
The public needs facts. What do you have to give us?
They kill for one reason. They kill for food. They eat their victims. Do you understand that, Mr. Berman? That's what keeps them going. If we'd listened, if we dealt with this phenomenon properly, without emotion, it wouldn't have come to this. There is a martial law state in effect in Philadelphia, as in all other major cities in the country.
It's just crazy. It's completely insane. Hey, Donald, you know this guy belongs on gold.
And the dire phenomenon. Should we be unable to check the spread because of the emotional attitudes of the citizenry toward these issues of morality?
Jim, you take it.
It is the order of the OEP by command of the federal government, the President of the United States. Citizens may no longer occupy private residences, no matter how safely protected or well-stocked. Citizens will be moved into central areas of the city. The bodies of the dead will be delivered over to specially equipped squads of the National Guard for organized disposition.
No longer seek occupancy in private residences, no matter how safe or well protected they may be. The President today has sent to Congress a package of initiatives aimed at what sources call a most sweeping set.
She all right? She looks blown.
What do you expect?
No, I mean she really looks sick.
Confirmation now on
physically.
Those early reports I gave
pregnant.
to you that communications with Detroit have been knocked out, along with Atlanta, Boston.
How far along?
And
3.5, 4 months.
Jesus. And New York City.
Steve, maybe we should try to get moving.
We can deal with it.
Yeah, but maybe she needs a doctor or something.
We can deal with it. It doesn't change a thing.
Certain sections of Philadelphia and
You want to get rid of it?
have reportedly been knocked out.
Do you want to abort it?
To our live wire services.
It's not too late, and I know how.
The normal question, the first question is always, Are these cannibals? No, they are not cannibals. Cannibalism, in the true sense of the word, implies an interspecies activity. These creatures cannot be considered human. They prey on humans. They do not prey on each other. That's the difference. They attack and they feed only on warm human flesh. Intelligence, seemingly little or no reasoning power, but basic skills remain are more remembered behaviors from normal life. There are reports of these creatures using tools, but even these actions are the most primitive. The use of external articles as bludgeons and so forth. I might point out to you that even animals will adopt the basic use of tools in this manner. These creatures are nothing but pure, motorized instinct. We must not be lulled by the concept that these are our family members or our friends. They are not. They will not respond to such emotions. They must be destroyed on sight.
That was Dr. Millard Rausch from the OEP. And later on, hopefully today, we're not exactly sure yet. I'm waiting for word on this from some people. We expect to get him here for a live show, an actual live interview, so we can discuss things with him.
Those semis are big enough to block the entrances.
You sure we can start them?
You haven't spent enough time on the street.
This report says they're working on an analysis of this whole phenomenon from the point of view of a viral disease. They're doing various laboratory tests to see if they can deal with it in that way and perhaps come up with some kind of a workable vaccine. The problem, according to this report, the problem they've run into in Atlanta is that there are no live specimens available. It seems in that area there aren't any.
Hey, they use maybe 5% of the food available in the human body.
The kind of thing
with that small amount, the body is usually intact enough to be mobile when it revives.
What are you saying? I mean, you know, you scientists.
Dummies!
You're suggesting...
Dummies! Dummies!
Them? Excuse me. Listen, quiet, quiet.
Shh. One wonders whether it's worth saving. It's worth saving. For all I know, the brains are already dead, and it's the idiots that are still alive.
Huh.
And I figured out how to stay alive, too. And I'm trying to help you, dummies.
In your calm, helping way, you do irritate people by the illogical way. It's an illogical way.
Illogical hell. Illogical hell. I'm showing you a way that we can up the food supply 20 times.
Right. The food supply for who?
For a whole specimen that is walking around there in increasing numbers.
We should feed them?
What else are you going to do with them? Give me an alternative.
I thought you scientists could come up with an actual way to solve the problem rather than feeding the opposition. Doesn't make any sense.
Well, I can think of one other alternative. I can think of another alternative, yes. Since they seem to congregate in heavily populated areas, and since we haven't touched upon our nuclear resources, why don't we drop bombs in all the big cities?
You're probably serious.
I'm deadly serious. What are the choices? They won't run out of food, young lady. That's the problem, you see. And they won't run out of food while we're still alive.
These kind of things out. You know, the things that you're talking about here sound like just a bunch of people talking, a bunch of scientists without actually figuring it out.
We're not fighting. This is not the Republicans versus the Democrats. They've got us in the hole economically, or we're in another war. It's more crucial than that. We are down to the line, folks. We are down to the line. There are no divisions among living societies.
At least let him finish. Let us know. Whatever.
It's really all over, isn't it?
Quiet here.
Unemotional.
Quiet.
We've got to remain rational, logical. Logical.
Scientists always think in those kind of terms. It doesn't work that way. That's not how people really are.
We've got to remain logical. We've got to. There's no choice. It has to be that. It's that or the end.
Where does it say we should do any one thing but shoot the mothers in the head?
We don't have enough ammunition, Captain, to shoot them all in the head. Time to have done that would have been at the beginning. No, we let them overrun us. They have overrun us, you know. We're in the minority now. Something like 400,000 to 1 by my calculations. I haven't eaten. Is there food?
You were supposed to be here at 7 o'clock sharp, mister.
I know. Sarah told me. I'm sorry I couldn't break away. Is there food?
Listen, egghead, let me bring you up to date on what's been...
Excuse me. Is there food?
I'm running this monkey farm now, Frankenstein, and I want to know what the fuck you're doing with my time. Because if we're just jerking off here, I'm going to have my men blow the piss out of those precious specimens of yours, and we're going to get the hell out of here and leave you and your highfalutin asshole friends to rot in this stinking sewer. Is that food enough for you?
Where will you go, Captain? You can destroy my specimens, but what about the millions more that are waiting to greet you outside? Do you really think you can blow the piss out of them? All of them? They have you in a hopeless situation strategically. You're lost.